What if, just for a moment, we set aside the limits of engineering, logistics, and budget constraints and simply asked, what would happen if we put a swimming pool on the moon? It's not really a technical question. It's an invitation to wonder, to stretch the fabric of imagination until it touches the edges of science. A swimming pool on the moon. Simple. And yet, nothing about it would be ordinary. Let's imagine we've built a giant dome, a vast transparent shell like a snow globe resting in the sea of tranquility. Inside, we create a stable atmosphere, pressure, oxygen, temperature, enough for a summer afternoon. And at its heart, a swimming pool. Not an Olympic one, not a luxury infinity pool, just an ordinary pool, like the one from your childhood neighborhood or the one behind a suburban home, filled with water, something as precious as gold up there, ready for someone to dive in. It sounds like science fiction. But it's also a door into the kind of science that begins not with formulas but with a quiet voice asking, what if? Swimming on Earth is a familiar act. We push against water and it pushes back. We sink, float, glide. We feel light but never free from gravity's grip. But on the moon, oh, the moon. With only 1/6 of Earth's gravity, everything changes. Surprisingly, floating would feel the same. That's because buoyancy isn't about gravity. It's about density. If your body floats on Earth, it'll float on the moon too. But the way we move, that would be utterly transformed. On Earth, the water resists your motion through inertia. It doesn't want to move when you do. That resistance shapes the effort, rhythm, and beauty of swimming. But on the moon, your legs pushing against the water would have an entirely different effect. Imagine the strength of your legs propelling you upward. Here on Earth, you might spring 1/2 meter out of the water if you tried. But on the moon, you would leap like a dolphin. Not centimeters, meters. An average swimmer might shoot a full meter into the air. An elite athlete, someone like Michael Phelps, perhaps 2, maybe even 3. Add a monofin, and 5 meters isn't out of the question. It would be like reverse high diving, not falling into the water, but launching from it, rising, slow and graceful, into the still lunar air. Water droplets suspended around you like stars frozen in time. It would be breathtaking. It would be art. And what about fun? Splash fights? On the moon, every droplet would arc beautifully, floating far longer before falling. Waves wouldn't crash. They'd rise, slow, tall, like liquid sculptures climbing toward the dome. Every jump, every kick, every cannonball would feel like a symphony in slow motion. The pool wouldn't just be splashy, it would be a performance. But there'd be practical challenges. Without gravity pulling splashes quickly down, a lot of water would fly out of the pool. So you'd need clever design, drainage channels, curved edges, or maybe don't stop the water at all. Build a sloped rim so that every swimmer can slide out laughing like a lunar water slide. Because even on the moon, joy should flow freely. But here's where it gets wild. What if you could run on water? It sounds like a miracle, but a 2012 scientific paper suggests that in the moon's low gravity, a human could almost dash across the surface of a pool for a few fleeting steps before finally sinking in. Why? Because weight is reduced, but forward momentum remains powerful. And in those few seconds, you'd be part scientist, part superhero, part legend. You wouldn't just walk on water. You'd sprint on it. A blur. A myth. A moment. It's funny how, in a world where we think we've seen it all, changing just one variable, gravity, can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. A backyard pool becomes a physics experiment. Swimming becomes flight. Splashing becomes sculpture. And a silly question becomes a gateway to deeper truths. Of course, there's the cost. Sending a pool's worth of water to the moon? Absurdly expensive. A full backyard pool weighs as much as 4 Apollo lunar landers. But here's a strange comparison. The average Summer Olympics costs more than $10 billion. That's enough to send water, build the dome, and still have budget for pool toys. In other words, as wild as it sounds, it's not impossible. It's just not practical yet. But dreaming about it, mapping it, simulating it, imagining it, that's free. And that kind of dreaming is how every great leap begins. Because space exploration doesn't start with a blueprint. It starts with a spark. In the end, maybe science isn't just a list of facts and formulas. Maybe it's a kind of poetry, written in numbers, tested in rockets, and whispered through questions like this. The moon pool may never exist, but the act of imagining it tells us something beautiful about ourselves. We are not just survivors, we are dreamers. We're the kind of beings who look at a gray, dusty world and picture water, motion, joy. We ask, what if? And with that question, we pull the future just a little closer. Who knows? Maybe 100 years from now, a child born on a lunar base will jump into that very pool. Maybe they'll swim upward and leap into the air, watching Earth rise slowly in the background. Maybe they'll never know what gravity used to feel like. Maybe they'll never understand how absurd this idea once sounded, but in that leap, in that splash, in that moment of stillness as water dances in slow motion around them, they will carry something ancient, something from us, that small spark of imagination, born from a single, improbable question. What if? If this thought experiment sparked a smile, a question, or a moment of wonder, then it was worth it. And if you'd like to keep exploring the impossible with us, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who still believes curiosity is the best kind of rocket fuel. We'll see you in the next leap between science and imagination.